All right, joining us now on Hot Copy, we have with us Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. Senator Gatchalian, good morning to you.
Good morning, Karen. Good morning to our televiewers.
All right, now what transpired in the hearing was alarming on so many levels. So I'll start first with this. Is Bamban Tarlac Mayor Alice Guo, is she a Filipino citizen? Taga saan po ba siya talaga?
Well, Karen, there are a lot of inconsistencies. In fact, I took a look at the documents again yesterday. And in her birth certificate, she declared, or somebody declared, that her father is Filipino and her mother is Filipino. But in the corporate papers that we saw, because they own various companies in which the father is also one of the incorporators, the father's citizenship there is Chinese. So there's inconsistency between the birth certificate and also the incorporation papers. As to the mother, Mayor Guo mentioned in the hearing that she doesn't know her mother. She, in fact, has no idea who her mother is. And so we're still locating documents pertaining to the mother, whether the mother is Filipino or Chinese. But to this point, she's non-existent because we don't know where she is. And Mayor Guo, the daughter, doesn't even know where she is as well.
Okay, but basic questions that you both asked is, for example, where were you born? Where did you live? Where did she study? If you're born in a certain country and you've lived in a certain country, you clearly have history, right? So
Correct.
what's been established, Senator Sherwin?
Well,
Where did you study grade school, for example?
As far as her youth is concerned, it's quite vague. Because she was born, she's born through a midwife or through a informal way, not in the hospital. I think she was born at home. That's what her declaration is. She's homeschooled for basic education, meaning elementary and high school. And she also said that she didn't go to college. So that part of her life is actually missing, or according to her, she lived in her farm, and that's where she grew up a big chunk of her life. And then she went on narrating that she is her business, or her family business is into piggery and into farming. And then at one point it became pogos because she also admitted that she met people in Clark, and then she entered into a partnership with them. And this partnership became what we call the Baofu Land Development, which developed basically the 10-hectare CBD in Bamban. And when we went on asking how come the financial statements did not reflect the assets or even the cash that built the assets, she said she doesn't know, and she has no idea on those financial statements.
Okay, so before we move to the company, I think what's surprising in all this is an elected official, right?
Correct.
So this is a woman who campaigned. Okay, I mean, the COMELEC obviously cleared her, but they said they're not able to actually make judgments on identities, right? On citizenships. That's
Correct.
Another issue. But this is a woman who campaigned. That's number one. And are we saying, Senator Sherwin, that this woman cannot present any neighbor who's seen her growing up, any classmate, any local friend? She has no history whatsoever of anything local, because the reasons are convenient. She was given birth by a midwife at home, homeschooled all her life. So no teacher, no classmates, no witnesses. Parang in effect, nasa loob siya ng bahay hanggang naging mayor siya. Ganun ang kwento.
On top of that, Karen, her birth certificate is registered late. And it was only when she was 17 years old when her birth certificate was issued. So from the time of birth until 17 years old, she didn't have any birth certificate. So meaning she can't attend school, she can't get a passport, she can't move around. You know, in our country, you need your birth certificate to prove many things. So that's also another question
Yeah.
mark. How come
Oo.
how come so late? Even though it happens, but for a business person and her family is into business, typically your parents will get a birth certificate because you want to travel or when you get you want to enroll to school.
Oo.
That's
I'm
also another
curious, how
question mark.
does she travel, Senator? Because as a mayor, for sure, she has a passport.
She has a passport. Based on our information from the various government agencies, she has a passport. But then again, we have to go back to the evidence. I've seen in various news agencies that they interviewed a few of the residents in Banban, and they attested that they've seen her. No, and there are stories that they've seen her when she was a child. But then again, it's important to look at the evidence. These are anecdotes, and there's no way of verifying whether that kid is her or not. So, but what's important now is establishing her citizenship, establishing her the basic requirement to run for public office, and more importantly, what's her connection to the Pogo companies that were raided in the same place twice.
Okay.
One before she was a mayor, and then after when she was a mayor already.
Oo. So we're talking about this 10-hectare compound.
Yes.
It's a massive compound.
Yes.
We're in right now. It's Zun Yuan Technology Incorporated.
Correct.
And there's a licensed POGO inside the
Correct.
Baofu compound. My first question, does she own the land?
She said in the hearing that she owns Baofu land. Baofu land owns the 10-hectare land. And according to her, Baofu land is the one who also put up the buildings. The first Pogo company, Hongsheng, is a lessee of that land. And that was the first raid. In fact, the first Pogo company that was raided also was raided because of cyber crimes like fraud and other cyber crimes. And when we were looking at the documents, it was Alice Go, at that time, she was not a mayor yet, who was the applicant for Hongsheng, the Pogo company that was raided. But in the hearing, we were surprised that she denied it. She denied that she has any connection to Hongsheng, even though the Sanggunian resolution was named after her. And then all the applications for the buildings, we looked at the building permit, we looked at the occupancy permit, we looked at the sanitation permit, everything, all the documents in that documents, the applicant there is Alice
What's
Go.
her?
Was her.
Okay.
So all the
are-
documents were
Yeah.
applied by Alice Go during her time when she was a private citizen.
Okay, so what we're saying now is we have a sitting mayor, an elected official who once applied for a POGO license.
Correct,
To operate
correct.
a POGO, a gambling license, right?
Correct.
He denies it, but at the end of the day, the documents reveal that she was an applicant. My next question, so she owns the land, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
what was raided in Zun Yuan Technology is illegal activities. There's am I correct? There are firearms there.
Yes,
And there were
firearms.
victims, no? There were people.
Yes, human trafficking. A few days ago, they deported close to about 170 Chinese who were working in that facility illegally. No documents. They came in as tourists. And then all of a sudden, they were working in Zun Yuan, and they didn't have any work permits. They didn't have any gaming permits. They were just working there. And this is the modus that we are seeing. These Pogo companies are duly licensed by PAGCOR. They have a legitimate license. But behind that license are all the scamming activities.
Yeah.
Love scam, crypto scam, and there are other
And
variations of these
prostitution.
scams.
And prostitution. Yeah.
But the scamming is the most concerning because this is actually present in all the 6 other raids that were conducted in the last 2 years. No legitimate license, but behind this is scamming activities, and the masterminds all are fugitives. They have warrants of arrest. They're The countries are looking for them, and also human trafficking is present in all of those raids.
Oh, so there was a fugitive. One of those was this person already
partner.
deported? A partner,
Yes,
right?
a partner.
So one of our partners in the partner in Baofu, not
In Baofu.
in Baofu. So one of our partners is a fugitive in
Correct.
China, correct?
Yes.
And she claimed in the hearing she didn't know he was a fugitive, right?
Yes.
So some questions, Senator. One, she owns the land. She's a sitting mayor.
Yes.
Of course, we know that Zone Yuan technology can only be put up with a permit from the mayor,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Nothing in local towns will ever be put up unless the mayor has a
Correct.
say. So anong sinabi po niya doon?
Actually, this is actually another big question mark we were asking her, because in the annual financial statements, she owned 50% of Baofu land.
Okay.
She's also the president of Baofu land before she became the mayor. So in other words, she holds the highest position in that company. At the same time, she put 50% of the capital of that company. So in other words, she dictates the course of that company. But when we were asking her about the financial statements, how come there's no sales reflected if Baofu land is the lessor, and she said plainly she doesn't know. She has no knowledge of how come the sales is not being registered. In fact, we will be asking BIR about that as well.
Yeah. So there's a possibility that a sitting mayor is violating the law, because you are a sitting mayor and then you don't know what to do with your own taxes, right?
Correct. And being a president of the company, you have to know everything about your company, including who your partners are. If you are going to partner with an individual, I think the first thing you have to do is know that individual, know who are going to be your partners. You have to conduct due diligence on your partners. But this partner apparently has a warrant of arrest from China, and it's being hunted by China because of those crimes that person committed. And this is the irony of it all. That person, Huang, managed to escape during the raid because the villas where they are living in had tunnels underneath.
Yes. Yeah.
So when the raid was happening, he managed to escape through the tunnels that were dug underneath the villas that were constructed for the owners of that company.
Okay, so because if you're a private citizen, you choose to do something illegal, that's on you, right?
Yes.
But what makes this worse is you're an elected official of the country, and your oath and mandate is to respect and implement its laws, and then you become the lawbreaker. So that puts her in a whole other situation. Ang tanong ko, Senator, what about Zuan Technology? Did she say has she visited the facility? Alam ba niyang may underground tunnel? Alam ba niyang may panic room? Alam nga naman po siya nakapasok doon.
She knows because in her declaration, in her narration during the hearing, she said that Baofu Land built everything because Baofu Land is the landowner and the developer of that building. In the application form, she's the applicant. She's the applicant for the building permit. She's the applicant for all the permits. And so it's impossible for her to say that I don't know that there was a tunnel being built. I don't know what facilities are there. She knows everything because she's the applicant. That's number one. Number two, even if you look at the pictures, the municipal hall is literally beside the complex. It's only less than 300 meters away from the complex. So in other words, you will see it's impossible for her not to know 800 people being shipped in and shipped out of that facility. Even the barangay captains will know what's happening inside. You'll have an inkling. Being a mayor, you'll have an inkling, especially with Pogos, because Pogo is known for all of this illegal operation. So, and yet she allowed Zunyuan to come in. We have to ask her whether she conducted a due diligence on this company, because apparently the owners of Zunyuan, which we invited during the hearing, cannot be found. And the addresses of those incorporators are all fake. So in other words, Zunyuan itself is a fake company.
Studio One itself is a fake company.
Because we invited the three incorporators of that company, and the committee secretary went there personally, and she couldn't find the address. It's non-existent. We couldn't find the people. That's a basic. I think that's a basic red flag that if the incorporators cannot be found, then the whole company is fake.
Okay, now who did PAGCOR grant a license to? In the hearing, you said, pag high risk, wag na, right?
Yes.
If Zunyo One is fake, who did they grant the POGO license to?
To both companies, to Hongsheng and to Zunyu One. And
why would PAGCOR not do due diligence? If Zunyo One is fake, shouldn't have PAGCOR discovered that?
That's an excellent question. In fact, the probity test, because in their guidelines, PAGCOR issued guidelines on allowing POGO operators in giving out licenses. And they, in their guidelines, there written is probity test, meaning you have to check the veracity and the accuracy of the declaration of the company. And we were asking them, how come there's in your guidelines, in your own guidelines, your probity check, but when our committee secretary went to investigate these incorporators, they couldn't be found. And they couldn't give us a straight answer. And at the same time, they flagged this POGO company, Zunyu One, as high risk, and yet they allowed it to operate and gave it a provisional, I think they call it a provisional permit. So meaning it's not a full permit, but you're allowed to operate despite the deficiencies in the requirements.
Okay, so do you believe that Mayor Alice Guo, number one, is not, I'll start with a few questions. Do you believe she's a Filipino citizen?
Karen, I'll reserve my answer for now, because we're still getting all the documents, and the agencies are just submitting to the committee all the documents. So I'll reserve my conclusion on that because I haven't seen the actual documents yet.
Okay, but do you believe she is a part owner or the owner of Zunyu One technology that runs crypto love scams, that actually was involved in human trafficking of more than 100 people? Do you believe she was an owner of that?
Well, Karen, the documents is saying that she is connected to Hongsheng, which is a POGO company.
Yeah.
That's 100% sure. Even though she said that nautusan lang siya, or she just facilitated, her name is there in the companies, and the applications are also there. And we have to check all the documents. For example, she said in her interview that she sold it she showed her shareholding to an individual. We have to look at the share purchase agreement. We have to look at her SALN, whether that sale went into her SALN, and we have to check all of those documents. But what's basic in the documents that were submitted to us, that she's connected to Hongsheng by the fact that she was the applicant for the Hongsheng no objection letters.
No, because in the Senate hearing, she kept saying, I am not in POGO. I am not involved in POGO. As an incorporator of Baofu, I assisted them in obtaining a letter of no objection from the previous administration.
Yeah,
right?
It's a play of words, no? You're saying you assisted, tumulong lang ako, but the documents are not saying that. And documents clearly pointed that you are the applicant. And you're also the president of Baofulan, no? Which is a high-ranking official of that company. And Baofulan was created precisely to host Hongsheng and precisely to host other POGO companies. No, in fact, if you look at when we went there to inspect, there were 14 villas in that facility. Apparently, the 14 villas are meant for the 14 owners or 14 masterminds of the POGO companies, whether it's Hongsheng and Zunyu One. And they were still there from the time the villas were built, and from the time it was raided the second time. The owners and the masterminds were there. They just managed to escape because of the tunnels. So in other words, if you look at the time series, they were there from start to end. No?
Yeah.
That puts them in connection with the two companies.
Yeah. Okay. So my next question is, you've called for the banning of Pogo for years now, right? Why can't we do it? I mean, the income isn't that big. Pogo is banned in mainland China. So what is it about Pogo that the president just can't seem to declare that Pogo is banned in the Philippines? What
Well,
gives?
Karen, Pogos have a lot of money. No? The money that surrounds this operation is quite huge and significant. And they know how to market themselves, saying that we
Yeah.
generate a lot of revenue for the government, we generate a lot of jobs. In fact, if we look at their Facebook pages and all their marketing activities, they really market themselves as legitimate and good for the country. But that's not the case. What they are showing is the front of the front and only the legitimate license that they derive from PAGCOR. But behind this is a much larger illegal operation. In my opinion, I am still running the figures. The revenue that they give government is probably much smaller compared to the illegal activities that they generate from their illegal activities. And not only that, but the people behind it, and this can be proven by all the enforcement agencies like PAOK. The people behind that are fugitives. They're criminal syndicates. They're organized. They know how to operate. And the scary part is, and this is already happening, is they also know how to bribe. Marunong sila maglagay, marunong sila manuhol. And it's already happening. In fact, we have information from the enforcement agencies themselves that they have managed to go up the echelons of the enforcement agencies. If that happens, where do we go, Karen? You and I, where do we go? If they are well connected to the upper echelons of the enforcement agencies, then who's going to protect us?
So it's also it's seeping moral corruption. There's
It
also
does.
that issue, right? So
Correct.
my question is, during the time of former President Duterte, that was the birth of Isabong. So it took him a while to actually make Isabong illegal. It was almost by the end of his term. Of course, this is not to say that all other forms of sabong don't exist, but Isabong, wherein you can bet online, you can bet via GCash. At some point, the former president decided it's bad for the Philippines, right? It's bad for the social makeup of the country. What is stopping President Marcos Jr. from frankly just banning Pogo altogether? What do you believe is stopping him?
I believe that, first of all, PAGCOR is the one that is supposed to be regulating and supposed to be supervising all of these POGOs. And they're also the one earning from this POGO. Clearly, there's a conflict of interest. On one hand, you want to regulate. On one hand, I'm earning a lot of money. And what is, in my opinion, what is stopping the executive from completely banning POGO is that revenue that they are getting. Because the revenue is clear. This is how much we are getting. But the social impact, the crime, the uncertainty, the peace and order deterioration, you cannot quantify that right away. But it slowly destroys our country because of the criminal activities as well as that corruption that is happening already at the higher echelons of our enforcement. And we've seen that. We've seen, for example, drugs. I think narco politics and narco activities is well documented. And how these drug lords can corrupt the higher echelons of the enforcement agencies. And it becomes a very difficult situation for the country because you cannot stop them if they have people all over the place.
Okay. Another question is, who or what agency should be monitoring mayors? Because, mayors in this country have such an autonomy, right? Parang if mayor ka ng isang lungsod, it's your little kingdom.
Correct.
So this isn't the first. Let's put together, let's say, the Arnulfo Teves story, wherein it was brought to light just all the private army he's had in that province for so long, right? How he had allegedly manned and owned the police force in the area. And here you have a sitting mayor who actually is who has pogo operations under her very nose, right? Allegedly, sources say the lifestyle of this mayor is also on the extremely high end. So I want to ask, let's say, as a taxpayer, who is watching over the mayors?
Well,
Because
Karen,
unless there's somebody who escaped, unless there's a whistleblower, right? Unless there's a raid, that's the only time illegal activities are exposed. But this doesn't have to grow this big if which agency should be looking at mayors?
well, Karen, talking about lifestyle, in the hearing, it came out that she owns a helicopter. No, so it just goes to show her propensity to spend. And to answer your question, it's DILG who should supervise all the local officials. But admittedly, mayors have a lot of latitude and a lot of powers. And they're elected there to look after public welfare of their locality. And in this particular case, she should have been very observant and very alert that this big facility, only a few meters away, this is not kilometer. We're talking about just a few meters away, less than 300 meters away from your municipal hall. You see busloads of foreigners in and out. You see this mega facility, and you know exactly what's inside the mega facility. You should have been more alert and more inquisitive in terms of what's happening in that facility. And that's also...
But that's only if you're not part of the business. But if you're part of the business, you know exactly what's going on.
Well, Karen, that's what we're afraid of, that Pogos are now entering into politics.
Yeah.
They know that if they want to get protection, it's not enough that they bribe and they have people in their pockets at the enforcement agencies, but also politicians in their locality, so that they will have protection. No? And that's going to happen in our country if we don't stop this operation. These guys are very intelligent. They come here, they study our judicial system, they study our political system, they study how to maneuver. They know how to get away with things, and that's the scary part. No, if you look at the facilities, in Banban, Baofu, it's like a mini BGC. It's huge. No? It's not one building. It's not two buildings. It's several buildings. I think it's about 4 or 5 buildings with a shopping mall and 14 villas.
Inside the
facility. It's a huge facility, and it's well funded. And that's also one we're looking at. Where did the money come from?
Yeah,
I'm very, very sure that there's a money laundering angle in this problem, because we couldn't find traces of where the money came from. We looked at all the financial statements, and there's no trace of the money. So it's coming from somewhere not written in the books.
So one kudos to those who raided actually the facility. Was that the local PNP who raided the facility?
No, it's PAOK. It's the Presidential Anti-Crime Commission.
So that's good work on PAOK for actually the raid opened all of this. What is the standing of that facility now, Senator?
Well, right now, it's secured by PAOK. In human trafficking crimes, government can seize the facilities, and in fact, if proven in court, the government can actually take it in their possession and use the facilities. But that's on the other side. We're happy that PAOK's doing that, but PAOK is only 40 in terms of manpower. Apparently, they're also surveilling many activities like this all over the country.
And at least Pogo hasn't gotten to PAOK, because if Pogo had gotten to PAOK, that would not have been raided.
Yes, well, not yet, at least, no. And I believe that they're very determined to stop Pogos and make sure that the criminal activities are halted. But then again, no, like I said, Pogos, these are well funded. well organized, well connected at this point. We heard also from information that they have managed to make themselves well connected, and it's really very scary at this point, because once these guys get a foothold of our personalities, whether politicians, enforcers, then we have nowhere to go. And that's the scary part.
So my next question now is with Mayor Alice Guo. If you're a congressman, you're a representative, like the Arnulfo Teves situation, we've seen it, how the lower house did the process of calling him, inviting him, showing up, etc. At the end of the day, he was expelled, right? There's a process. Here is a mayor, let's assume regularity, okay? Let's assume she didn't know. But that's also that's an issue of negligence, right? If you have a massive operation of illegal activity in your own city, just a few meters away from City Hall, this is just assuming, let's say she didn't know. What happens to mayors like that? Can they be dismissed? Can they be expelled? Who removes them from office?
In this particular case, DILG should conduct the investigation. You should get all the information, analyze the information, and apparently, according to them, file a case at the ombudsman. And the ombudsman will take those pieces of evidence and either suspend or either conduct its own investigation. So that's the process for mayors and the executive branch, because
in this situation, Senator, shouldn't that person be removed from her place of power, because she can use the office to protect herself?
Correct.
So while an official is being investigated, I mean, in private companies, they will have you go on leave. Shouldn't we be doing that?
Absolutely correct. There should be a sense of urgency in terms of investigating and fact-finding by the DILG. And if they are saying that they don't have that power, it's only the ombudsman who suspend, then they should already file it and request for an immediate suspension. Because you're correct. Like, for example, the committee is getting information. We're trying to get as many documents as possible. And the source of the documents is from the local government
agencies.
Unit. So that's also another worry for us, because whether the documents are authentic and whether the documents are correct or not. So that's another concern for us. But you're absolutely correct. The DILG should move as fast as they can to request for a suspension if they said they don't have any powers to suspend, so that the investigation, and also on the part of the LGU, the investigation will be impartial and the investigation will be as quick as possible.
All right. Okay, before we move on to another topic, I'm going to go into a quick commercial break. I want to ask you again, I guess you've called on the president so many times to already ban Pogo. With this example, it's on television, it's on everyone's faces that it's gotten this massive an operation. Anong panawagan mo, Senator?
Let's ban Pogos immediately. In fact, Karen, just yesterday, I saw in the news report, and I was also talking to the enforcement agencies. There's another person, an Indonesian, who was rescued because the allegation is he was being tortured by another Pogo company. So it will never end. And yesterday, I also saw a hospital catering, illegal hospital, with foreign doctors catering to Pogos. So in other words, it's creating a sub-operation or a subculture by itself.
It's creating an underground community.
Correct. That is illegal. If it's legal, then well and good. But it's illegal. Illegal doctors, medicines that were smuggled, and we don't know. This is really creating like you said, an underground,
illegal underground community.
Modus.
Yeah. Senator Gatchalian, I have less than 10 minutes to do this, what's left, but we can discuss it longer because this is about education. So let's start first with this. Number one, the proposal to put back the school calendar to the old school calendar. In other words, in the Philippines, we start the school year June, right? Yun yung luma eh.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we do that? Where do you stand on that?
Okay. Well, first, I support that, and I thank the president and the vice president for coming up with what they call an aggressive option. Because just to give you some history, the initial proposal was a 5-year transition. Then they cut it down to a 2-year transition, and now there's a 1-year transition. But the 1-year transition also has sacrifices to be made.
Yeah.
Number one, we have to typically you have to have 220 days of classes. But because we're doing a 1-year transition, that will be cut into 170 days of classes. So to compensate for the other remaining days, DepEd will implement Saturday schooling, probably half day, and also probably through module means or through distance learning. So, and that's a sacrifice that everyone needs to make. No? Of course, we will balance the welfare of students, but that's the only way to cut it. And I support that because the current the weather is becoming unpredictable this year. This year is really kakaiba. No, it's really different. We've seen heat index passing 50 Celsius, and that's unheard of and unseen of in the past. And it might be the new normal in the future. So we should cut it, no, and go back to the original calendar.
All right. So I want to ask you, how would we do this practically? No? So for example, right now, all over the Philippines, summer is June, July. Tama?
Correct.
They go on a school break June, July. And I'm not sure, in public schools, do they go to school August or
Yes,
September?
August, mid-August.
So it's all the same.
All the
If
same.
there's a 1-year transition, if they go to school August, what happens in the next summer if they start June?
They will end March.
So you will still keep summer 2 months, or
Yes.
is it possible to make summer 1 month?
No, we will keep summer 2 months still because it's also not healthy for students to cram everything and then don't have and then they don't have a break, and also for teachers to have a break. So the compensation or the way to compensate the leftover days will be that Saturday classes, and also other means of catching up and completing the entire 200 to 220 days of schooling. So that's only 1 year, but that's the 1 year transition is only 1 year after that.
Kumbaga itong taon na to, this coming school year, instead of 10, is it 10 months, 10 school months?
10 months.
10 months, they'll have 8. Is that
Yes,
correct?
you'll have 8. Correct. Correct.
Okay.
So it's
Alright.
only 1 year so that we can transition.
Okay, next question. You want cell phones banned in classrooms. I'm absolutely okay with that, but what made you think of it?
Well, Karen, the two things. So number one, a lot of our students, they don't know how to read. They don't study as hard as they can. And they spend so much time on cell phones. And just observation. And if you go to any school, during the break, during recess, everyone's on their cell phones. And the worst part is when they go home, while eating, they're also in their cell phones.
Yes.
So just to free up time for reading, free up time for studying, and free up time for socializing, I suggested to ban cell phones inside the schools. And this is not a unique policy. In many countries, such as the US and some parts of Europe, they already ban cell phones inside schools. In fact, different methods. Some of them totally leave the cell phone in their homes. Some of them, they surrender to school. Some of them, they put it in pouches. But the basic principle here is do not use the cell phone inside your school. Number two, mental health. There's also a lot of issues regarding mental health and excessive use of cell phones. Cases of suicides, cases of depression in the States went up because of excessive use of cell phones and also social media. And we need to look at that angle because we're also seeing a lot of mental health issues in the Philippines, of course not reported in media, but parents are very concerned about the impact of social media and cell phones to the well-being, mental health well-being of their children.
Okay. All right. So another thing is moving back now. This is an issue that was exposed many months ago. There are reports of supposedly Chinese nationals supposedly paying up to 2 million pesos to get college degrees. So there was a Senate inquiry on this. And this was in a private university in Cagayan Valley. Now, diplomas for sale isn't new, right, Senator? I mean, that's an issue that's whether you're a Chinese national or not, that's long been brought up, right? But what is the difference if it's, this particular school that supposedly has a lot of Chinese national enrollees, right? And rumors of diplomas for sale.
For me, what's more concerning here is the issue of diplomas for sale.
Okay.
And because we're really struggling to raise the rankings of our universities, public and private universities. And this type of news reports can damage the reputation of our higher education institution. So I'm very concerned with that. The whether it's Chinese or some other nationality, for me that's already secondary. But what's important for me is maintaining the reputation and the integrity of our higher education institutions. Of course, we will look at the angle why there's so many Chinese students going to Cagayan in particular. But for me, that's secondary already. What's important is maintaining quality, making sure that those who are practicing these diplomas for sale gets penalized, and if warranted, their permits be revoked by the Commission on Higher Education, so that we maintain integrity across the system.
All right. When's the next hearing when it comes to Mayor Alice Go?
We're still collating all the information. It's really, to be honest about it, you're right. No? Getting information is very difficult, especially from the LGU itself. No? So it's taking time, but we're targeting 2 weeks from now.
All right. On that note, I want to thank you for joining me today, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Karen.